Hypixel Skyblock has had a very tumultuous history. The game's had more controversies than I can count, and honestly the updates take even longer to come out than I could ever possibly imagine. But yet, I'm still playing this game, years after its initial release, and years after its peak in popularity. I started playing as a senior in high school. I'm now about to graduate college. This is a game that has been a part of my life for a very long time now, and I wanted to take a little bit to sit down and talk about why I still believe in it and why I still play it, even after all these years. I think the first reason is one that speaks to a lot of people. The game just has a lot of charm. Pretty much anywhere in Skyblock is very, very charming, visually, in terms of the characters, in terms of the sound design, the music, and just generally everything about the world is well thought out. The characters are interesting, they're cutesy to look at, and some of them have very interesting backstories or ideas behind them, ones that I don't think I've seen in very many other MMOs. Another thing I wanted to talk about here was just the general style of Skyblock, and I think this can be seen most in the Rift. The Rift is a beautiful location, just brimming with passion. You can tell whoever made it really cared about every single block they placed and every single quest that they made. And I think that passion isn't seen too often in Minecraft. Too often we see servers go the route of pay to win, creating worlds that are kind of uninspired, kind of boring. And I don't think Skyblock is uninspired or boring pretty much ever. Even when you consider a task within the game that would be boring, like the garden for example, I think the idea of making your own little plot, setting it up yourself, and having pests that occasionally attack you is pretty interesting and definitely unique. So even at its worst, I think Skyblock is still fundamentally pretty good. But why do I stick with it despite the hardships that I already talked about at the beginning of the video? Well, I think that's twofold. The first is the community. The community is one of the best and one of the worst that I've ever seen in MMO, all at once. Not only do we have some of the most talented and passionate people creating mods, texture packs, and just general content for the game, we also have a lot of people who are frankly incredibly toxic and difficult to deal with. And I don't think that it's that much worse compared to other games, but it's definitely the worst in any MMO that I've played. I don't think that's a problem that will go away by itself, but it's not reason enough for me to quit Skyblock, especially not with how many people who genuinely care about the game, who genuinely care to log in every day or to create art or music or pretty much anything else that relates to Skyblock. That's part of the reason I stick around, to go onto the subreddit or to Twitter and see what people have created. I think that's one of the best parts about being a Skyblock player that you don't really see as much in certain other MMOs. While yes, there is a lot of passion in other games, it doesn't really show as much as it does here, especially in terms of mod support. Skyblock is one of the most moddable games or MMOs that I've ever seen in my life, and the fact that the admins don't really endorse it, but they don't really take it away either, is a gift, to be honest. You can't really talk about a game that's this old without talking about nostalgia, and Skyblock is definitely a very nostalgic game. Walking around the hub to me feels both right and wrong at the same time. Even though I was still in high school at the time the game released, I remember the original hub very, very clearly, and it's something I probably will never forget. You could see me when I was 75 years old on my deathbed talking about the old hub and how I still miss it. But that goes for pretty much anywhere within the hub, in terms of the castle, which is still incredibly nostalgic, the minions, which I feel nostalgic about, even the older Slayers, same thing there. Yes, that's not necessarily a reason to love a game, but it's part of the reason I still play. To see that history, the entire history of Skyblock, which is still visible in-game, through old items, through exotics, through players who have been around for a very long time. I think that's incredibly cool. That the game has that much history, that much dedication, and that much passion put behind it. This can also be seen in the game's events, which I think are only getting better year on year. The recent introduction of Year of the Seal and the changing around of the Year of the Pig, I think further add to that, not to mention all the other events that currently exist. Things like Jerry's Workshop, or the Spooky Festival, or the fishing festivals that Marina can do, and so much more. There's more and more being added onto this game every single month, And I think that's pretty crazy for, once again, a game that has been around for 5 years now. And that's not just saying that because, I don't know, other MMOs don't really update, because they absolutely do. I just feel like the frequency at which Skyblock updates is still pretty frequent compared to most other MMOs. Now, obviously, there are issues with that. I'm not talking about major updates here. We have been through a bit of a drought in terms of major updates. But I still believe that things like 1.20 and moving the game to the latest version and giving us access to those new blocks, those new features, will definitely do a lot of good. But I'm just saying that Skyblock is certainly a game that is constantly changing, constantly evolving. And that can be seen directly through the game's market economy, which I think is really excellent as a whole. I don't think there's very many other games which are able to showcase capitalism to its fullest extent, and oh boy does it run rampant in Skyblock. With so many things that players are buying and selling on a daily basis, players getting rich and losing all of their money in a blink of an eye. It's like watching Vegas in real time, and honestly, it's pretty cool. I enjoy looking at the market every once in a while, not even really to buy anything, but just to see where prices have gone. Have you seen Habanero Tactics prices recently? It'll shock you. Everyone's favorite part of Skyblock is the addiction we all suffer to it. I can't tell you how many hours I put into this damn game, but it is a lot. Pretty close to 2,500 at the moment, however many of them were making videos or streaming. So I would argue in terms of actual playtime, I'm around 1,600 to 1,700 hours in. And I'm still having a good time. There are still parts of this game that I've yet to discover, yet to fully immerse myself in. And there's still a lot that I need to do, not even in terms of major content, but auxiliary stuff. There's just a lot going on. And I'd be very hard pressed to find a game with this much content. And a lot of players still consider the game incomplete. Many players would say that without the foraging update in Galatea, there isn't really a fully completed mode in this game. And honestly, I'd agree with that. But for now, it's looking like Galatea is getting a little bit closer, and maybe those updates that we've been wanting for so long now are finally coming a little bit nearer. 2025 looks like it's going to be a pretty good year for Skyblock. We're set to get major pieces of content, not only in the form of the first two islands of Galatea, but we're also going to get the other side of the breach, which is apparently going to be at the time of the dragons, which is going to be interesting. Not to mention a bunch of quality of life improvements, further additions, and things like the Great Glaciate Lake, which I imagine will get people pretty excited for all 7 of you who still care about fishing. Regardless of those jokes, and regardless of everything else that we're going to get, I think Skyblock is still fundamentally a strong game. I think everything is related to passion, and as long as the players are still passionate about the game, and as long as the admins still are as well, I think it has a long future ahead of it. I've seen so many videos related to Skyblock, things saying the game is dead, the game is dying, the game won't exist in 2 years, here's why. And 2 years later, I can say pretty clearly, the game is still alive. It's still active. It may not be as big as it once was, but I think it has the potential to enter into another golden age. And the reason why I still play is because I believe in that future, in that golden age, and in the community, even though, frankly, I probably shouldn't. My name's Derailious. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. Look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.